I occasionally think how quickly our differences worldwide would vanish if we were facing an alien threat from outside this world. And yet, I ask you, is not an alien force already among us?
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the show. Returning is Landon, the Daily Dissident. He's back. We've had a great run so far. I really enjoy working with him. So, welcoming back the Daily Dissident himself, Landon. How you doing, man?
What's up, Tim? How's it going, brother? Good to be back. We're out here. What time is it? 9:30 at night. We're ready to rock, baby. This shows you how insane we are. This is what we choose to do on our Friday nights. So if that don't tell anybody anything, then I don't know what will.
I know, man. Good point. Good point. I did one at 1 a.m. one time. That was the latest I did.
I would be done. Usually, you've been on the show with me at JJ's though, so it's like about like his Fridays. Sometimes we'll go to like 12 o'clock, and I'm like, it's been 3 hours, guys. Like 3 hours is like max for me. Like I can't do my brain can't hold that much information. Just goes into overload.
Yeah, I start to wither a little bit at 3 too. I've done back-to-back shows, and boy, once you get into that fifth hour, it's like
no way I could
Zone.
do it. We'd have to do it like separate days. Like I could do like in blocks or increments, but yeah, like that hour 45 to 2 minutes, 2 hours. I think that's the money range. I think you get enough value out of that amount of time and not overload people's brain too. So I like the longer episodes. So
I do too. And I mean, I do kind of enjoy going to 3 hours, but you can't do that with everybody.
it runs on, right? Sometimes
Yeah,
it feels
runs
like
on.
a show will run on, and you're just like, oh my gosh, I can't hold all this information anymore. So
Yeah. I mean, I know the information that I stock up on sometimes for these shows is so much. It's got so much mash to begin with. I have to cap it off somewhere, or my recall is going to
right.
be terrible.
Your notes are super good, so shout out to you. So I know you put a lot of time and a lot of effort in your shows, and I respect that because I put a decent amount in. I usually I like to surf when I'm laying in bed, so I surf the Yandex especially. I know it's kind of Russian, but I don't know what else.
I use Yandex.
I like Yandex probably the best. So yeah.
Yeah, I use Yandex, and in fact, maybe some of the stuff we'll get into tonight will be some stuff that I pulled off.
Archive.org is good too.
Yeah. Because, I mean, I know I'll just jump into this a little bit for people listening. I know you're always down to hear about a good conspiracy, and I've got one for you. We can cover at some point tonight.
Yeah.
And this might not even be a true conspiracy because it's pretty much real, if that makes any
Right.
sense.
That doesn't make it a conspiracy then, right? Just makes it fact.
Yeah. But I mean, it's a conspiracy nonetheless.
I've had firsthand experience of web scraping right in front of my eyes. So
Oh, I experienced it with some of the stuff I'm gonna get into today.
you get the error 404 or what's it called? 550.
I
Yeah.
can't believe you just said that.
I've had it happen several times.
It happened to
It's
me
weird, right?
yesterday. Yes, it happened to me yesterday. To do with stuff that we're going to talk about tonight.
And especially like you get into some darker stuff too, like Boston bombing type stuff. There's little to minimal evidence of anything of that nature on Google search, especially, but Yandex too. There's not as much. Reddit's fun.
Man?
I like Reddit for like creepy pasta kind of true story. Like some stories you can tell are definitely fake, but they're written really well, and I can condone that, I guess.
We'll have to get into Reddit one day. When I first started the show, I used Reddit a lot. I used it as a source of information too. And I mean, I didn't just tell people this is real information. I told people like
Right.
this is from Reddit, but still it was good enough. What I saw happening was the government ever so slightly or slowly, just like a big dark cloud just started encroaching in over Reddit, and it's
Clamps and
completely controlled now.
it clamps them fangs in, right? You can definitely
Yeah.
tell like some threads are for sure CIA bots.
For sure. And it's and real CIA people too, like not
Oh
just
yeah.
the bots on there anymore. It's like what was I about to say?
What do you think about them making their runs on the podcast circuit? Like I'm tired of it. Like
Hmm.
I'm literally over it. Like it seems like new one pops up every day. It's like they don't even try anymore. You know what I mean? You have some of the biggest podcasts in the world, the Sean Ryan show. The dude was CIA. You know what I mean? It's like
Hmm.
I don't know.
Hmm. I know.
Sean Hannity openly CIA for Fox News. He doesn't. I mean, he has a podcast, I guess, but it's more Sirius XM
Oh,
type.
I remember. We had this camera issue for people listening before the show, and it kind of threw me off my game a little bit. So that's what's going on right now. With I've got stuff in my head, and I'm trying to get it to come out of my mouth right. The guy from Reddit was killed. The guy who
Oh
started
wow.
Reddit was killed. That's why I say, well, you need to talk about that someday.
What's his name?
I don't remember. I looked into it a while back, and they
What they just captured that one guy from what Telegram?
I didn't see that. But
Yeah, I think it's the
you
guy
can
from
do a whole
Telegram.
you could do a whole show on Reddit, probably Telegram. I don't know the extent to which that's government, but I'm sure, and Netflix as well, because the
What's
guy
his name?
from one of the creators of Netflix
Nazi propagandist, right? His
was,
dad where uncle was.
well, oh yeah, that's right. His uncle was Edward Bernays. You're right.
Bernays, yeah.
And he grew up in the Clintons' neighborhood. His
Uh,
neighbors were Bill and Hillary Clinton, one of the guys who started Netflix. He's the CEO that kind of took a back seat now. He's not in the public eye anymore. They're letting the
right,
guy, the main Netflix guy who's running it is a huge donor to the Democratic Party. And
okay,
he's the one that brought in Obama to do, because Obama's got a Netflix deal.
right.
So we could get into this sometime because it goes deeper than that. But you know what it is, man. You said this before on a show, that the Paul Bunyan stories and all that sort of
Right.
thing. Well, they give this sort of like they try to make it sound like a rags to riches Jeff Bezos thing. Like, oh, he was just this poor college kid who just
Right.
worked hard and he just rose to the top. He's like
Yeah.
a great American individualist. And
Right.
no,
It's so
this
cheesy.
guy lived in the neighborhood with the Clintons in a rich neighborhood in the suburbs, I think of DC or New York. Can't remember which
Right.
one. But no, these people had money from the start. Elon Musk did as well. His grandpa was some big head honcho guy. These
Well,
guys
look
start
at the
off with
Rothschild.
money.
The Rothschild. The main one that kind of rose it to fame was like 13. This is like actual written record. Like he was like a 13-year-old stock trader, mega mind over there in Austria. So yeah,
Yeah, yeah, no.
I think it's Austria.
It's deserving of its own episode. True, because there's a lot of these guys out there, and
Oh my gosh,
they're really, really the
they're cheesy,
spearhead
man.
of the big tech world that we're all
But
sort of
it's
like wrapped up in.
It's so bad, Tim. Like that's what gets me is like it's so inaccurate. It's not even funny of how blatantly terrible it is. Like the acting's not even good. You know what?
It,
Like I could appreciate like a good act. You know what I mean? Like
like a good
I guess
supervillain.
yeah, like I could like see myself like kind of, like admiring that a little bit. But
Yeah.
to see the
Do you remember that movie Gone in 60 Seconds? Remember the villain?
oh my
Like he
gosh.
wore black, kind of looked villainous. He had his own warehouse and everything
Right.
where he did all his plotting. It was perfect.
It's
That
a
kind
good
of a
movie.
bad guy I can get into.
Yeah.
Have you seen the pictures online? And the more we talk about this again, I think the more this deserves its own show. But there's pictures online of these guys. I think it's Bezos. It's like his old college dorm room or whatever, where he supposedly started the company. And it's just like it looks like he was poor, and there's a
Well,
bag of
we were
Doritos in the corner, and it's just. But that's
it's
not the
not
true
real.
origin story for these guys. It's just not.
Right, his dad's running his dad or his granddad's running DARPA, right? Or his dad.
Yeah.
So it's like, yeah, okay, thanks, but no thanks. You know what I mean? Like even like the Apple story, like the Steve Jobs narrative, right? Steve Jobs didn't find Apple; it was Steve Wozniak. That was the brain. That's who created Apple. It wasn't Steve Jobs. He basically stole it. You know what I mean? I
Mm-hmm.
mean, you
Mm-hmm.
go down the line, look at the Winklevoss brothers are involved in Facebook, also big involvement in Bitcoin now. So,
Mm-hmm.
well, they've been since like 2013. So they were very early on Bitcoin. So I tend to stay away from the CIA realm. To me, that's what it seems like. I was actually a big Bitcoin believer. I know it's kind of off topic, but since we're here, we'll stop real quick. I think that tends into this whole CIA narrative of this tech overlord. What's the movie with Will Smith in it?
With the iRobot, maybe?
No, 2001 film.
I Am Legend. I'm thinking
No,
about
no,
his apocalyptic type
that's
stuff.
that's '06. No, he was it American?
Well, what I'm saying is that the government umbrella of psyops is massive. And that probably goes without saying at this point, but it's not only massive, it goes way back. Because I'm starting to see this in the 1800s. And we've talked about this, the Society of the Cincinnati, even, which that goes back to the 1700s.
Right,
It, there's a lot of stuff, a lot of the changing of history that happened back in the day, too. So it's not just now. Now we're in the thick of it now because of the internet and because of the social media companies. And like what we're just talking about here, these guys having these, they have a script, a scripted, they're playing sort of a character that's been scripted. You know, you see that with George Bush too.
right. I'm
W,
just a guy you
right?
want to have a beer with, right?
Yeah, but you know, they scripted out his whole backstory. Like they tried to make him look sort of like patriotic and like he was a veteran. And
Right, kind of
they
dumb hillbilly.
yeah,
Well, that's what he really
but
was.
he's
They
not
tried to
from.
disguise it.
Well, yeah, they try to paint him as this guy from Texas. Well, they're not from Texas. They're from New England. They're not.
Possibly inbred too, right?
And you remember that whole warplanes thing with him? He's like, oh, he flew warplanes, and that was
Right.
part of his story.
Well, I
They
yeah,
came up with that term. Have you ever heard that term before? Warplanes? Get out of
no,
here. That's a script, man. They just came up with it. They tried to make him look like a military man,
right.
like he served, because that was the
Well, you
whole
see a
thing.
lot of the military involvement in the hiding of history in Smithsonian realms too, right? It's a lot of
Hmm.
military involvement there
There
too.
you go, man. You
Not
said it.
only of like the Smithsonian itself, but also like the findings of these. Like usually the military is involved in archaeological discoveries, quote unquote, different things like that. So I always
Hmm.
find that kind of weird that military involvement's always there.
Yeah, it is. It is. And I'm going to show you something to do with that here in a second. Actually, that's you're taking the words right out of my mouth here, man. But so I found this quote the other night that sort of just shocked me out of my seat. And it's documented in video as well. I got the interview. It's Roger G. Kennedy, who's the director of the Smithsonian National Museum of History, was the director of that. I've got him on record saying that there were major population centers in what are now Nashville, Cincinnati, Pittsburgh, and St. Louis that are ancient cities. And I couldn't believe it because that's what I've been telling people on the show, right? Because I kind of stumbled on this about a year ago. Been trying to tell people, like, look, there's our cities are built on these older, ancient civilizations. And I was like, people are going to think I'm crazy. Nobody's ever going to believe me. But I got the guy from the Smithsonian saying it on in an interview.
Right.
He said he went on to say too that it's hidden behind junk now, and he's like all that stuff is now hidden behind our junk and our architecture. Basically, he's talking about how we basically just built our stuff right on top of these older ruins. You know, we've talked about it with JJ too, you know, the Cincinnati being built on a mound site. I found out that Grand Rapids was built on a mound site. Nashville, of course, St. Louis, Pittsburgh.
Grand Canyon.
Yeah,
Well,
there's
I mean,
stuff
not
in
really
there.
built there, but not really a city, but
They
I
just
guess a
closed
hit,
that off.
right? Just a hidden city that's not really hidden anymore.
Yeah, not only did they close that off, but they sealed up some of the entrances to those caves because that one's a little different. That one is inside. It's as hard as this is to sort of see mentally. that was like a city that was built inside the earth,
Right.
and they had caverns going in there. And in fact, I've got a
Because there
picture,
was
man.
water flowing through the Grand Canyon. Well, there still is, but there was more, I think, right?
Yeah, yeah, well, yeah.
So you would think it was like a mode of transportation, like a city and, with a subway system, right? Of that time, I guess you could think of it that way.
This is the picture of,
Right. They found Egyptian stuff in there, right?
yeah, this picture is something that was found in one of those Grand Canyon caverns. I got this from some people who study that whole thing.
Right. Is this Buddhist?
It looks more, I don't know, Indonesian, or
Right. I'm thinking like, I guess Thailand, something like that.
it's got Egyptian like stuff on the base of it though.
Right. Which could be, this also could be a mashing of cultures too, right?
Hmm.
Maybe they were both here, at the same time.
There was a guy who got in there and snapped that picture, and I'll have to go back through my notes and find all the details so I could tell people. But there's a group of researchers now. It's an older couple. They've done great research on this. They've been harassed by the government even for looking into this. And they went and they found one of these guys who went in there and took this picture. There's a couple people, even Timothy Hogan, the Knights Templar guy, he snuck in there too. Billy Carson, I think, went in there at one point as well. There's a couple of these guys who've gone in there and they always get kicked out. And I heard Timothy Hogan on an interview saying that the some of the caverns were not blocked off until him and his people went in there.
Right.
And then that's when somebody in government said, okay, we got to seal up some of these
Can
caves.
I run something by you though, real quick, pertaining to that? Just I don't know. I feel like if you think about it, the way my brain's working is like, well, what happens if they want us to see that? You know what I mean? Is that also a play on this too? Like, I understand psyops, I understand different things of that nature too. So that always, comes across my mind is like, are we seeing what they want us to see? What are they not wanting us to see? That's kind of where my mind goes. Maybe they're saying, here's this sculpture, right? And the real stuff's hidden in those caves that no one's been to. Like that's what I think could be a possibility too there. You know what I mean? Like maybe they're just feeding us this because it's hard to determine what this is. Um, like you're saying, we see some Buddhist uh, scent to it, I guess, and then you also have like you're saying, Egyptian um, characteristics as well. So I find that kind of odd.
Hmm.
I don't know.
Well, that's what made me think that that picture was a little bit more on the authentic side, is the backstory that I heard was compelling, and it's not what I expected, right? That looks like, I don't know what that looks like. It looks like some sort of an unknown ancient culture that we don't quite have an understanding of.
Right.
Because it's not Egyptian and it's not full-blown Tibetan either.
Right.
I guess South Asian.
Monk,
It's got a
a
lot of
monk style.
flair to it, but that's for another time. I'd love to just do more of a backstory on that picture and really give people the whole scoop on it. And I can't do that today. But I hear you, man. I hear what you're saying.
Just say I'm just throwing it out there.
Mhm.
Like I like to think of
It's
everything. Like it's not great for my mental health, but also I don't like to be lied to. I don't like to be got. So I always kind of, always think of different scenarios. Like I try to think outside of the box. You know what I mean? Like
mhm.
I understanding like the whole Psyops and Mind War. Michael Aquino stuff. Like and as well too. Like it's a psychological warfare every day. It's not just gun. I guess roses and lollipops, right?
Yeah, and a
The
lot of
world's more
it.
mysterious. What I'm saying is the world's more mysterious than it's led to believe. Up is down, down is up. If I learned anything in my 25 years, that's one of the main things I've learned. Nothing is
Mhm.
what it seems.
And it takes a while to start to understand the extent of that and to sort of navigate that and try to undo what is up and what is down and put things back in their place and sort of start to see that puzzle, start to see that clearer picture. It
You do a
takes a
good job of
while.
that. You do a
Well,
good job of like dissecting that down, and like I'm not trying to, you know, like I don't know. All I'm saying is that you're good at dissecting that and giving it into a edible format, right? You're able to do that, and that's a gift. I don't necessarily have that gift. I can't express everything on my mind. Like my mind's going 9 million miles an hour at once. Like I'm thinking of multiple scenarios, so it's hard for me to spit it out. I can write it out, but like talking it out is very difficult for me. So.
yeah, no, I appreciate that, man. That's, I
And
mean,
that's why I don't like documentaries, I guess. I'd rather read. I'm a
yeah.
better I'm a better I guess tactile learner. Like as I write things, like for me to remember things, I have to write it down like several times. Like I
Well,
can't
that's
just
what I like about working with you, man, is that you do sort of question things. Like even
right.
it's something I'm sold on. And for the record, I'm not 100% sold on that picture either, but it was compelling. But oh, and other stuff too. I like when somebody's on the other end of this conversation, like saying, "Well, hold up now, how? Are you sure?"
Right.
I like that kind of thing. It sort of helps keep me on track. And like I think one of the best examples of sort of what we're talking about today is John Wesley Powell. I mean, he's the reason why I think people believe they do about the ancient world and or the lack of the ancient world, because this guy came in and said basically, if it happened before Columbus, we're not even going to document it.
Right.
How is where at least one semester on American history classes should have started for everybody, at least a semester, right?
Yeah.
Because we got to get into the truth on him because even as a man and as a person, and this goes right into what you were saying about the military earlier, Landon. He was a Civil War hero,
Right.
and I use
I
I use hero loosely because they did like the whole astronaut thing with him, where they're like, we're going to make you a
Lance
hero.
Armstrong Lance Armstrong him.
Yeah, we'll make you a hero if you play ball and do kind of what we want you to do. And they didn't really have to do much convincing with him because he was pretty much down with the narrative to begin with, changing the narrative to begin with.
Right.
And speaking of narratives, the current narrative on him is fabricated and very misleading. If
Didn't
you
he
could,
marry his cousin, I think?
I don't know, man. I've heard that brought up before, and I'm not sure.
Right.
I'd have to look it up. Um,
That's the only thing like I actually remember about him. Like I've done a little bit of research into it, but not near as enough.
I need to
Uh,
I need to check into
That
that and
is one of the
see.
things I do remember, though. I don't know why. That's just one of the I remember stupid things. So
Well, I'll
that's
tell you. I mean, he was a character, man. One of the things he did was he had it set up to where when he died, he was going to have his brain analyzed. He was like, I want you guys to study my brain because I've evolved more than most people have.
right.
He was just
Imagine the ego. Imagine the ego on this dude.
that's yeah, that's what it was, man. Imagine having an ego like that to where you actually tell people to analyze your brain because it's
Right.
special.
Get
So
a grip.
yeah, yeah.
I do
And
find it fun though. Like I like the kill switches. I think that's pretty cool. Like after you kill him, like the drop of a flash drive or a hidden document. Like that's always like the Nicolas Cage kind of like the national treasure type. That's um yeah.
yeah.
I think that's cool. Also the Virginia Giuffre thing. I don't think that was real. That was obviously AI that she came out. It was stupid, but
Yeah. But we'll have to come back to that Virginia thing with
oh, I
her.
was just
It's
no, I was
interesting.
just mentioning in passing.
Okay. Well, so you said National Treasure there too, and that's Powell was very much involved in some very National Treasure like expeditions, and I just found out this week that he was directly involved with the Nashville expedition of 1877, and I think it went on and off until 1884. Now, I've looked at this before, man, and I actually have the papers on this from the Peabody and Putnam, but what wasn't out there to be sort of readily looked into, well, basically they don't tell you that Powell was involved. I had to really, really do some digging, and I just came across it. And he published nothing. He came and was a part of the Nashville expeditions. There were, like I said, there were mounds here and a lot of other crazy stuff here in Nashville. He was involved with the expedition and he didn't publish any of it. And he's supposed to be this big scientist, DC scientist. So there's that. And what he was doing was he was going to Congress and creating, well, he created the National Geological Society and he created the Bureau of Ethnology. And he also founded the National Geographic Society.
Oh,
And
wow.
all the guys that he put in charge of those scientific government institutions were also in his secret club called the Cosmos Club, based out of Washington, D.C. We've talked about that before. I don't know if you were on the show or not, but I read the list on here before of the members of the Cosmos Club, the founding members.
And we
They're
mentioned that in our last podcast. So I'm eager to learn more.
they're
Is it in connection to like the Hellfire Club? Or
no, I
Hellfire Club's a little bit
I
later,
think
right?
that's
That's
older.
World War I, I think.
Yeah, I don't
What's
remember.
the
That's
timeline we're
overseas
talking
too.
here with?
This 1880 is when he,
Okay,
1879, I think, is when he created the
so not
Cosmos
not too
Club.
far off, but
Yeah. So he does the Nashville expedition, doesn't publish any of it because there's a lot of stuff I think that they didn't want talked about. And then a couple years later is when he starts all these science groups, like the Bureau of Ethnology, that work directly with the Smithsonian. And to sort of expand the operation, that's when he starts the Cosmos Club. So all these, like the Anthropology Society, the Shakespeare Society, the National Geological Society, the National Geographic. There's a couple others too. All those societies, all the heads of those societies, he sort of gathered up and got them to be in his Cosmos Club.
and
So
this is out of Vanderbilt.
this is out of Washington, D.C.
Oh, okay,
And that's how this cover up was perpetrated, is what I'm saying.
okay.
Because
How was this connected to the Vanderbilt situation? Then you mentioned Vander. Did you
no,
mention?
I didn't mention Vanderbilt. I
No.
mentioned Nashville,
Okay, that's where I
which
meant.
it's
Okay,
here. Vanderbilt's
yeah.
here. Yeah.
I got something really fun to show you. You keep going. I'm looking at it now.
Okay.
Um,
Well, I'll just
of Nashville and Vanderbilt.
I'll throw this in. The Civil War soldiers part. Like I said, he fought in the Civil War. He was sort of made out to be a hero. And a lot of some of the other soldiers that were Civil War or Union soldiers, they made those guys archaeologists as well. And if you'll remember, we've talked about the Sauk Rapids, Minnesota giant case. It was found right there off the Mississippi. They were building a dam, and it's in a town called St. Cloud, Minnesota. The local news reported that a guy named General Thomas came in by train at night and took the giant remains, and it was never seen again. Well, what did we find? Well, General Henry Thomas is the guy, and he was a Civil War hero, also, just like Powell. So I'm starting to see that thread here. You pretty much nailed it on the head earlier when you brought up that there's a military connection to this, and there absolutely is.
Yeah. So speaking of Civil War, let me pull up.
And I'll point this out too. I think I said it in maybe the last show we did, but these guys lived a life of following orders. So I think that's why a lot of these guys who ended up sort of perpetrating this cover up were Union Civil War soldiers.
Yeah.
I'm sure there
So
were Confederates involved as well, but anyways, they fought in the
let me
Civil War.
pull it. Let me see if I can find this picture. So I've been doing some family lineage. You might find this interesting, and this guy looks like exactly like me. It's super creepy. Let me see. I'll just pull up this here if it'll give me the picture. If it'll unblur.
Powell was uh, also a big Darwinist. I can throw
Oh,
that in
really?
as well.
When was Darwin running his circles?
Well, I'll have to look and see. It was in the 1800s. So
Yeah.
Powell was influenced by a guy named Lewis Henry Morgan. Morgan was a contemporary of Marx and Darwin and Freud. So Morgan actually introduced Darwinism to the US and
What year is this?
I don't have the year, 18, late 1800s. And I'll put it like this. Frederick Engels, who co-wrote the Communist Manifesto with Marx, cited Lewis Henry Morgan as a major influence. Lewis Henry Morgan is who Pow was influenced by. So that's the lineage of thought here. And this was all driving the creation of anthropology and ethnology in the late 1800s.
And this
And
is
that's the study of what makes us human and the study of the characteristics
right.
between people. And basically, when you go back and read these guys' work, they said that the natives were low IQ savages. And so there's that, you know,
Right.
not just saying
Um
racist to say racist, but it's an element to this.
are you able to see this?
Hmm.
So since we're talking like World War II, I mean Civil War era, late 1800s. So this is one of my family members I've been tracking down. This is Milton Humphreys. So he is like I think like my seventh great cousin. So way down the line, but still out of Greenbrier County, West Virginia there.
Man, he
So
looks like you. That's
he
crazy.
looks a lot like me, but he was the one of the first I guess military achievements of indirect fire. So like cannon volleys, different things like that during World War II is actually Confederate in the Confederate Army. Yeah, that was, and he actually studied. He was the first Greek scholar at Vanderbilt, which was really weird. Also spoke at some society outings as well there in Cincinnati. So I was running down some society connections and it kind of
Mm.
fizzled out from there. But
Hmm.
yeah, I thought that was pretty cool. Yeah, so he's
Vanderbilt himself was is an interesting character as well. He had his eye on some of this archaeological stuff too. You know, he's the one who shipped a Egyptian obelisk all the way over here to New York City.
New York City at the
Yeah,
obelisk, right?
and had that erected, and then just the where he decided to place it, and some of the other things behind that obelisk are basically like alignments, right? And
Hmm.
a lot of that stuff is reminiscent and derived from ancient Egyptian cosmology. So Vanderbilt was in deep with some of this stuff too, you know. But they created the Bureau of Ethnology and Powell's whole operation and the Smithsonian even when because he came in and basically took over the Smithsonian. He wasn't just doing their bidding. He sort of in 1880 that marks a huge change, a huge swerve in the narrative. They tossed out thousands of years of oral tradition.
Right.
And it's a lot like Rockefeller. Speaking of these big rich guys who built this country, like Vanderbilt, Rockefeller, this is exact same thing he did with medicine.
Right.
You know, they tossed out thousands, 10,000 plus years of herbal remedies for this new system of pills, petroleum-based pills.
Petroleum based pills. Yep.
Uh, so,
That's the Geneva Convention there, what in 1910 or 11, I think. 1892, the Geneva Convention, where they got the name fossil fuel from. So very fun there.
well, yeah,
Seems like a conflict of interest to me, but out in California, they actually have what's the name of that company?
well, this all coincides with
Saudi
that.
Aramco. That's it's the dinosaur,
Yeah, this all coincides with that Industrial Revolution.
right? PSYOP type industrial shifting of wealth, basically, is what it was. You know what I mean?
The building of all those Rockefeller's hospitals was a big part of
Right.
that Industrial Revolution, and it coincides with this new way of thinking. So that's that's one way that these ancient sites were covered up that I'm looking into. It's that quote scientific thinking. So they took a soldier, they called him a scientist, and they made him the most powerful scientist in DC. That's one way they did this. The other way that I'm seeing that they covered up ancient sites are the dams. Of course, we talked about that. Like, we'll build off of some of the stuff we talked about in the last episode, but the dams, many of which were built by the Army Corps of
Core engineers.
Engineers, and there's a link there between with POW as well, POW and the dams, because there's two lakes connected to two dams with ancient sites beneath them, named after POW.
Well,
So I know he's involved that way. Also, POW was a major in the Army Corps of Engineers.
right. And those guys control what, like 2,000, over 2,000 dams here in America?
Oh, it's they built. Oh yeah. Oh
I didn't
yeah.
realize there was that many dams until I looked it up, and there's like over 6,000 in America alone. So
Hmm.
it's pretty crazy of how many there is, really.
Yeah, I
And
thought
they're
that
all
there
kind of
was
built, they're all built
9,000.
around what, like 1940s, 50s. A
A
lot
lot
of
of
them
them were
were.
in the
A lot of the
30s.
newer dams are. But
Hmm.
they're kind of trash after 70 years from my research, so they only last about 70 years.
Lake Powell's a good one to.
Where's that at? Lake Powell.
That's
That's California?
no, it's out in the Four Corners
Arizona?
region. I think it's Arizona. It's connected to the Glen Canyon Dam, and it's they say that there's Egyptian artifacts out there and hieroglyphics out there. Personally, I think that there were caves down there and there was stuff in the caves that they wanted covered up. So that's when they expanded the river and submerged all that. I've seen pictures of the glyphs out there. In fact, I'm going to show a couple of those because a listener sent me a picture of some of the Glen Canyon petroglyphs. And this, I think this will give you an indication of what might be below that lake even. So shout out to Nicole for sending me these. You see, you've got this, they kind of look like alien insect people.
Ant people, right?
And it's funny because the Hopi lived in this area and the Hopi talked about the ant people.
Yeah. Wow. I did not know that.
Yeah.
That's just what came to mind first looking at this thing was ant. I don't know why. I guess the two antennas at the top.
Yep. There's another. They definitely
So
appear to
they
have
called them the ant
antennas.
people? That's weird.
Hmm. They were
So
like
base
inner Earth alien people.
okay. So we're talking some subterranean stuff here. We're talking some what's that book? What's his name? The guy who wrote King Kill 33 wrote
Hmm.
about you know what I'm talking about?
I do. Yeah. I don't
What's
remember
the
his
name of
name.
that? Uh,
But it goes back to something you said earlier about the inner Earth, right? Or tunnels. The tunnels. That's
oh
what they
yeah.
say when you talk to some of the Hopi elders. They say that these Egyptian tunnels, basically, that we were finding before it got locked down, were a part of a network of tunnels. And
Right.
that, like that section of the Grand Canyon, think of it as the nucleus, right? And then all these tunnels branch out from there. In fact, they say that that's what this symbolizes right here. It symbolizes this is the Grand Canyon running through here, and there's a section where all the tunnels branch off of.
That's weird.
Yeah, that's one interpretation of that symbol.
So what's that to the right?
That's some sort of an alien guy. He's got a head right there. It looks like the antennas and everything are missing, but
Right. Kind of weird.
yeah.
What's the shoot, it's something about the astronauts or something, right? What's that book? You know, it's what's his name wrote? It's a the guy from Hellier, um,
Oh, Alan Greenfield.
Alan Greenfield. Yeah, what's his? Is that the book I'm thinking of?
He wrote Secret Cipher of the Euphonauts. All right, look
Yeah.
at this one right here. This one
How'd you
actually,
know that?
because I've read the book.
Oh,
Look at this. This one's got like an alien head almost. See, it's got the big sort of ET eyes.
right. Yeah, that's
Yeah,
weird.
yeah,
What's that? What's the deer there? Is that a deer or?
some sort of a deer. But yeah, the animals look pretty normal. But the animals also, if you think about it like this, they're very small compared to the size of these humanoids. Not that it was meant to be a life-sized recreation, but still. So all this is Lake Powell is connected to Lake Mead as well, right? But it's all the Colorado River. And I just think it's
Colorado, that's Utah, Arizona. What else?
mhm.
New Mexico in there too, right? Does Colorado go through New
Yeah,
Mexico?
it's the Four Corners region. Yeah.
Yeah, a lot of weird things there too, right?
Oh yeah, it's a very mystical place. So,
So you think these people were underground kind of reptilians? You think they're shapeshifting or no?
well, according to the legend, they did live underground, and during some sort of a cataclysm, they helped the Hopi people out. They took them underground. And I don't want to talk too much about it because I don't remember the details. So I
Okay.
don't want to get it wrong. But they had an interaction with the Hopi.
You
And
think they're the fallen?
I don't know, man. That might just be, it might not be as spiritual as that. It might be that there's just an inner earth species of entities. I'm not sure. I mean, I think that's probably speaking of Hellier, that whole thing kicked off with an email that was sent to Greg Newkirk
Hmm?
about this guy who had a coal mine in his backyard. And he said these little humanoids were coming out at night, coming out of the coal mine. He found their tracks and everything, and he got pictures of them, and it spooked him. Apparently, he left. He moved out. He couldn't handle it. Well, those things, whatever they were, are very much like the old Native American legends here in Appalachia, even of an inner Earth group
Right.
of I don't know what they are, but the Cherokee called them the Moon-Eyed People,
Yeah, it's
and
def
they were
and
these
there's
short
Peru.
little.
Peru has them too, right?
Exactly. I think that that's the same thing.
You think
The
they're the same people?
I think the Nazca mummies are the same thing as the Hellier thing because the guy in Hellier said that they had three toed footprints. Well, if you look at these Nazca mummies, they got three toes on their feet and hands.
Right.
So if there's
Yeah,
anything to this, that I
it's
think it's the same thing.
right. It's definitely weird for sure. I don't know. Just I was just thinking about it.
Yeah, I mean, you look at like the ocean, or just look at life on Earth, and look at the variety of life on Earth. There's so many different kinds of creatures.
Right.
Uh, this weird supernatural cryptid stuff, it might be the same kind of way, where there's just a variety of other things that are humanoid. I don't know, but
So does that kind of get into like the whole national park missing 411 type stuff, or do you think that's connected too? I think it's probably connected, right?
sure. There
I mean,
seems to be
most
some dimensional stuff going on there.
right. These people are just falling off the face of the earth. I mean, no trace, nothing, right?
If you talk to or listen to
Mostly white males.
John D'Souza, who worked for the FBI, that's what
Yeah.
he was saying is that there were portals that were opening up, and
Yeah. I
there
don't know.
seemed
I
to be
don't
like
know.
like something. There was like an entity involved as well, but there was also
Right.
portals.
I do believe that those portals could be real.
Oh
Like
yeah,
I think there's a dimension that's real. You know what I mean? Maybe it's really, not like as woo woo as we think. Maybe like I sometimes think like is it like are we just playing a different dimension here? Like if you look at like autistic people or Down syndrome people, like do you think they're like I always kind of think that's kind of weird, right? I always think they're kind of like maybe we're the dumb ones, right? Maybe they're smart, in a way. Like I don't know. Like sometimes it's weird to think like that, but who knows?
so another thing that comes to mind,
They're just on a different timeline. That's just kind of
mhm,
how I think.
Lake Mead, you've got the Anasazi ruins. That's
I'm
another
not familiar.
group.
You want to pull that up?
It's this old group of I don't know, the Native Americans talked about them, Anasazi. It's very mysterious, right? That's who they said occupied the region at one point way back. Now, let's talk about Lake Mead for a second. I'll come back to Anasazi. Online, they're saying if you look at ruins beneath Lake Mead. If you type that in any type of way, what they say is that, oh yeah, there's a Mormon ghost town down there called St. Thomas. But of course, I'm looking for the ancient stuff, right? So if you dig a little bit deeper, you'll find that there's also older ruins down there predating the Mormon town, and it's called Pueblo Grande de Nevada. Pueblo Grande, also known as the Lost City. And I just think it's interesting that they don't talk about that one much online. When you search ancient ruins, Lake Mead, what pops up is the Mormon town. Not, and here's the thing, the Mormons probably moved in there because it was a special ancient site.
Right. They
Because
already knew.
yeah, they knew, man. The Mormons,
They're in the ancient magic schools, right? They have already mystery schools.
and also they're treasure hunters and relic hunters. They're all
Right.
about these ancient civilizations, and they seem to know about these because that
So,
kicked off back in the 1800s with Joseph Smith. And a lot of this stuff, these ancient cities, this was like kind of common knowledge back then.
right.
It hadn't been covered up yet.
Do you think they're kind of like trying to garnish that power of some sort? You think they're trying to, corral it, use it for their own good, right? That kind of goes back to the up is down, down is up type thing, right?
Hmm. They certainly have a fascination for it. I'll say that.
Right. There would be no other reason in my opinion, the money, they already have all the money. The Mormons don't need any money. That's not on the objective. It's power. It's changing of history. It's the changing of time. I guess in a sense, if you think of it that way, if you think that
Hmm.
those ancient relics hold power, which I think they probably do.
I actually want to talk to more Mormons in the future on this show because they're so into some of the same stuff I'm into. And I don't, what I mean is like, I'm not trying to get talk theology with them. I'm not interested in the religious views. I'm
Right.
interested in the knowledge that they've procured concerning these ancient sites. And I'll say this, man, that what they'd like to do, I've got a whole book in the other room of the West and some of the findings that were found in the West that were documented in the old newspaper articles and stuff like that.
Right.
That, the Mormons were in town, right? And they were settling in our favorite, in areas where we found like our favorite mythological giant stories. They
Okay.
seem to have a nose for it, and they seem to be able to go right to where giants were.
Right.
It's all through that book, I'm telling you, man. I'll have to get that book out one day and do something on it because it's all these old newspaper articles where people were finding caverns and all sorts of things. A lot of them were inner earth, like tunnels into the inner earth where they'd go in there and they'd find sarcophagi, if that's how you say it, and just basically the bones of giants. But yeah, like
Right.
this lost city,
Just call them bones, you know? So
bones.
some of those guys, they go crazy with it, right? The historians, you know
Mm-hmm.
how they are.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
They always try to make it more difficult than what it seems, so the average person doesn't even look into it. I think that's part of a psyop too. But you know how it goes. The way
Yeah,
they
man.
word things.
So if you before I forget, I want to like just cap off this Lost City thing because I just think it's interesting that, and that's the nature of Google right now. It's like you're looking for the stuff with historical potency, but they tell you about the old Mormon settlement. But when you look
Right.
more into it, you're like, oh, there's a lost city there, and it goes back to 300 AD.
Right.
and and then you find out if you do a lot more digging, you find out, oh, it's not just 300 AD. The site shows occupation. It goes back to 8000 BC. So what you quickly start to see here is that there's multiple narratives running here.
Right.
So which one is it, right? The surface level is, oh, it's just a Mormon town. The next level back is, oh, it's a lost city. It goes back to 300 AD. And then there's a whole other level that goes back to 8000 BC. So it's like,
Right.
why is the coverage about a Mormon town from the 1840s and not the ancient Anasazi settlements that go back to this
Right.
8000 BC date? So,
The
and
psyops on psyops, right?
yeah, and the lake part because of course they covered all this up with a lake, right?
Man-made lake, of course.
Man-made lake named after Elwood Mead, who was the commissioner of the U.S. Bureau of Reclamation from 1924 to 1930s, sometime
Seems
late 30s.
convenient, right?
They knew about the ruins.
Of course.
Hmm.
And I think they've known of them for hundreds of thousands of years, Tim. You know what I mean? I think those things kind of stay in the family bloodline. Those type of writings, those type of information, it's, real value, not just made up funny money like we think of money or gold. I think that's a trick in itself, right? It's
Hmm.
the real value of the world, the best kept secrets, I guess, in a sense.
I agree with that because it's like a lot of the guys that we've already discussed so far tonight. It's like, Vanderbilt's come up, Rockefeller's come up, JP Morgan, I don't think he came up, but I was wondering about him in this milieu as well. And then you've got a handful of people at the top who knew about this, who were sort of changing the narrative and sort of covering it all up. And those are these guys that are in these government groups that Powell appoints. So it's a real small, tight-knit circle
Niche,
of elites that know about this, who are controlling what everybody else is allowed to know and not allowed to know. And
right?
yeah, the Rockefeller and Vanderbilt and guys like that seem to be in the know. So yeah, there is bloodline activity.
Right.
Roosevelt. We talked about Roosevelt Dam in the last show, which I would encourage people to go listen to. You don't have to stop this one and listen to that one first. Like you can listen to them out of order. We just filled in a lot of gaps with this subject, and it's ancient sites. What did I call that? The cover up of ancient sites in America with Landon here and myself. Check that out. One of the dams that we covered is Roosevelt Dam. It's Theodore Roosevelt Lake as well. And we found that New York Times article about it. And I got it right here. It's April 25th, 1925. It says the drought in America. Oh, let me start that over. The drought in Arizona and the lowering of the waters of Roosevelt Lake near Globe, Arizona, have exposed the ruins of what was once the biggest city in America, according to an announcement yesterday by the American Museum of Natural History. The big town, which is a city, which is somewhere between 2,000 and 5,000 years old, is being explored by the American Museum archaeologists. So that's another one we talked about. They covered this up. They knew about this when they built the dam. And then later, this drought hits the area and a whole new generation of people see it. And they're like, what? We didn't know that was down there. And they go in and they check it out and they do some dating. And then what do? They fill it back up with water.
Right.
And
Were they a part of the Cosmos Club too?
which one? The American
The
Museum
yeah, the museum
I,
part of it.
of Natural History? I think so.
Well,
I
that's
do
weird.
think so because there were two museums on the Cosmos Club list. One was the
What is
Smithsonian, and one I
what's the
think
sole
was
what's
this
the
one.
sole purpose of it, of the Cosmos Club? Like what's their stick? Like what are they identifying? Is it just a secret group? Is it, you know what I mean? Or is there
Just a
little
network.
known about it? I mean, I haven't really studied it. I don't
Hmm.
know too much about it, you know what I mean? It doesn't pop up on pretty much anything really,
Hmm. It
very
was
under
a.
the radar.
I mean, I've got the list in here somewhere. It's just
Was
a
JP
network.
Morgan a part of it?
No, these were. I don't know. So I don't know. I didn't come across those type of names in the actual club, but the club is downtown Washington D.C. And so they would have brushed shoulders with all these people. It's right
Right.
across the street from the Society of Cincinnati headquarters. All these people knew each other. Let me
Very
see.
weird.
I've got the Cosmos Club list somewhere in here. Oh man, I'm not gonna be
So
able to
he's just a
find it.
sponsor. JP Morgan was.
I don't
He
know.
was not a member.
No, I don't know if he was a member. That's the
No,
thing.
no, that's what this says.
Oh, really?
Yeah, he was a sponsor, not a actual member.
Well, so he was
Whatever,
involved with it then.
whatever that means, right? I'm affiliated, but not affiliated at the same time.
So it's founded in 1878. Basically, they're this group of government and academics and just about everybody from every powerful position possible in DC. And all the guys who were brought into this by Powell are in fields that pertain to archaeological finds as well. So this is the perfect way to cover something up, is to get all these people under one roof and
Right.
and have this very
Centralize.
centralized network. Yeah. So here's some of the names. Now, Powell is the main guy who founded this, right? But he's got
Right.
some co-founders here. Henry Garnett from Harvard. He's the father of map making in America. He founded or helped found the National Geographic Society, along with Powell, and the American Association of Geographers. Clarence Dutton from Yale worked for Powell, was a part of the U.S. Geological Survey. Another guy from Yale, Garrick Mallory, expert on rock art and pictographs and picture writings. He was in the American Philosophical Society, the Bureau of Ethnology, and the Literary Society of Washington. You also have Theodore Gill, head librarian of the Smithsonian. He was a part of the Library of Congress, and he was in the American Philosophical Society. Also, Henry Smith Pritchett, president of MIT. So you see, you've got all these big college guys here, right?
Right.
Yale, Harvard, MIT.
Yale especially. I mean, you go to Yale. I mean, that puts you right with the Bone Wars. That's why I was wondering what these guys' names were.
Yeah.
Does Othniel Marsh ring a bell?
Let me see if he's on the list.
Othniel Marsh? Othniel
Okay.
Marsh?
All right.
Peabody Museum of Natural History at Yale.
Okay. Okay.
Paleontologist.
Well, the Peabody Museum is kind of like the other Smithsonian. They're like
Okay.
one of the only.
It's like the Smithsonian offshoot, like a Dollar General Smithsonian.
So this, all right. So Pritchett, right? Uh, he was in the United States Coast and Geodetic Society. He was in the American Philosophical Society. He was also involved with the Navy. He's president of the Carnegie Foundation for Advancement of Teaching. So, and I'll just read one more here, but I think this paints a picture. So you got William Harkness. He was an astronomer and a president for the American Association for the Advancement of Science. You've got one more, Edward Singleton Holden, astronomer, president of the University of California, and he was a librarian at West Point. So, and then the list goes on from there.
There's your military connection right there.
Mhm. There's a bunch of guys on here from the Smithsonian, the guy from Columbia University's involved here. Uh,
Wow.
so that's
It's
what we're
all the
dealing
main
with.
it's all the main colleges, right? It's the
Mhm.
main it's the big four. Columbia, Yale, Harvard. I'm sure you'll find Brown University in there somewhere. A lot of these northeastern type, top level colleges. The blue bloods, basically.
It's as if someone said, ancient cities, ancient sites, not allowed to exist in Mexico and above,
All right.
because that's what you find. Uh, the cities and sites like this that I'm looking at that are in North America, you don't start to see documentation of those until you cross over the border from Mexico. That way they can say, oh, it's a Central South America thing only.
Right.
There's like these guys established an imaginary line.
For information control.
Yeah. They're like, what happens in this country is what we're gonna, how do I put this? The boundaries of the country are like the boundaries of the narrative in a lot of ways
Of the
pertaining to these
research.
sites. Yeah. I mean, come
Huh,
on,
yeah.
like ancient, we've thrown out some crazy dates already, but the city underneath the Roosevelt Lake, 3,000 to 5,000 years old. That's not allowed to exist in America. So thus it's not talked about.
Isn't there some concerns of carbon dating itself, right? Isn't it not totally accurate?
Hmm.
So what's up with that? Because I can't really wrap my head around it. Because like I don't know what to believe with carbon dating.
it's I'm not going
Because
to
they
go
say
into
like
that
the
because
carbon breaks should break down over time, and there shouldn't be that much remnants left to test, which kind of leads to the whole COVID PCR testing too, right? That wasn't even designed to test for COVID. It was like 10 parts per billion able to detect it. So
I question the dating once it gets up into that 100, 200,000 million year mark.
yeah, 100 million mark. Look at the dinosaurs, right?
Yeah. Yeah, that's I mean,
Like,
yeah.
how do you know that, dude? Like, come on.
So that's what I'm asking people to think about too, regardless of the dates. It's like we have the sites and they're just not being talked about. Not to mention this Four Corners area, Montezuma and the Aztecs were coming up into the Americas too. So there's you've got that in the mix too.
Is there
Anasazi,
lost gold there in New Mexico, I think, or Arizona?
you've got
Montezuma, Montezuma's lost gold, right? Isn't that a thing?
yeah, that's a thing. That's legends in Utah that I've heard is that his
Okay.
treasure was up there. So this could have been, and we'll get into this here in a second, but it wasn't just out west. This is a problem across the boards. It's also an issue here in Appalachia. It's an issue here in Tennessee. I think Göbekli Tepe that could have been here in Tennessee as well. A site just as old, a site just as mysterious. The only problem is, well, what they do? They put a lake on top of it.
All right.
And that's just one of the temples that was found in Tennessee. There are two. If you cut to Powell River in Tennessee, Powell River, right? Strangely named place for a river
Right.
where they found a temple. And of course Powell was coming here and doing excavations and whatnot, so and not documenting them. So I think that this was named after him. But
Yeah, it's definitely weird.
yeah, this is where they put in a dam called Norris Dam, which is right on Powell River. And it was, we talked about this last time. It was, they were working under the New Deal, and the TVA actually put this one in, and they decided to do Norris Dam, and it was in 1933. Um, so this is where it gets really interesting. Would they go in before they build the dam? They start finding things. The TVA, they find mounds, then they find this temple, and they start excavating the temple, and they bring in a guy from Cambridge. His name was Professor Rendell Harris. So they bring him in to look at the site, and he said that I got the quote here. The Hopewell were latecomers who raised their mounds of earth over a much later Egyptian temple built by Egyptian immigrants to the most important deities, Isis, Queen of Heaven, and Osiris, God of Resurrection,
That's weird.
in Tennessee.
So, you said the New Deal, right? I'm looking here and it says he created the Tennessee River Valley Authority, TVA,
Hmm.
and that is Roosevelt, Theodore Roosevelt, I think.
Yeah, yeah. There you go. There's another name. That's another Roosevelt there. But uh,
Franklin Roosevelt, sorry, not Theodore.
yeah,
But didn't wasn't Theodore? He was involved in the national park creating, right,
yes,
in the early 1900s.
yes,
So kind of weird there too, right?
yeah. Got two Roosevelts, but yeah, it is kind of strange. It's like, why did
L-
he set aside this land?
Bro, look, yeah, look at the missing persons report on those lands.
Hmm.
Look where they come out of. One of the first missing reports of a person missing was actually in Tennessee for the missing 411. That
Hmm.
was in 1980, I think, 81, 82. I want to say.
So this site in Tennessee is pretty crazy, though. Just that he thought that it was
Why
Egyptian.
Tennessee though? Why do you think Tennessee? I mean, I mean, like, what's the significance about Tennessee? Is it the whole Egyptian narrative? You have Memphis, with the big pyramid there with Bass Pro Shops. Very weird.
Hmm.
So, what do you think? There's an energy source there in Tennessee or something? Or you think the whole Appalachian region's like, goes to be the oldest mountain regions? Or are they really built on the backs of giants? What's your opinion on that, Tim? What do you think? That one's a little out there. I don't know.
I think that it was just a site where one of these massive prehistoric civilizations were. They liked the area for some reason. I
Right.
mean, was there energy? Probably. Ley lines and all that sort of thing. They seem to know about those. He does.
Sacrificial sites, possibly.
Tennessee, Tennessee does have a lot of, quartz and conductive minerals and such. Like the mountains, when you go to the North Carolina mountains and the Tennessee mountains here, you can feel an energy in the area. It's very potent. It's hard to put into words. Um, and right in those areas in the mountains where you have a lot of rolling hills, and it's great soil for growing things. They
Right.
always say, people to this day when they talk about gardening in Appalachia, they always say it's you can grow great gardens there. So I think there's a lot of stuff going on. I don't know why they picked it in the first place, but
Well,
there
that
was,
could go back to the mystery school thing, right? Maybe this is known knowledge, is what I'm thinking, for thousands of years, possibly.
yeah, I mean, even DeSoto, when he came up into Appalachia, it sounded like he was having a terrible time, according to his journals, until he got into Tennessee and in the area right below Knoxville. He said it was great. He ended up staying there for several weeks, because it was just such a perfect place to be. He said that the livestock was eating great. There was no shortage of maize. So the Cherokee were living there at the time, and they had a perfect little paradise. It's
Is the Daniel Boone in Tennessee or is that in
the national
Kentucky?
park. Yeah, the national park is. So,
Right.
but before the Cherokee, that's what we're trying to. It's like, okay, so the Anasazi was before the Hopi, and they're this mysterious group. Well, who's this mysterious group who predates the Cherokee, and why did they have a temple there that this guy from Cambridge said was Egyptian? And further, it sounds like he saw some type of relic or some sort of script that's helped him shape that opinion.
For
And
sure.
there's not a lot of documentation left of those details. So, and this was this Professor Harris from Cambridge, and he's saying, "What? There are Egyptians here. Is there anything to that?" And I kind of think maybe there is, because I mean I've looked into this region more, and what I'm finding is that there was other Egyptian stuff found over here. I got a couple pictures of those.
Were the Egyptians, were they sailors or I'm thinking Phoenician.
Yes, the Phoenicians were known for their seafaring abilities. I think that some of those groups were possibly meeting up and sailing together. But I'm pretty
Sailing
sure,
together.
I mean, look, the Egyptians were very handy as well. I
Right.
just think across the boards, this was
Well,
just
maybe the
something.
Egyptians were paying the Phoenicians.
Oh
You know what I
yeah,
mean?
yeah,
On
yeah. I think
expeditions.
right. Yeah, that's in some old records too. That a lot of different types of people were sailing with the Phoenicians.
That's
So,
interesting.
yeah.
Well, you have the Vikings coming into, northern Canada there, so they were
Hmm.
obviously seafaring as well. Coming out of Scotland, Ireland, places like that, Norway.
Yeah, we have evidence of them coming over here 1,000 years ago,
Right.
straight to where you said. So check this out. This is Egyptian. This was found. I'm sorry, it's a little blurry. This stuff was super hard to find online, guys, so I had to pull this off of a documentary. That's why it's a little blurry, but this is a real find. This is a Egyptian funerary urn that features magic spells from the Book of the Dead. So there's your esoteric, Landon. And this is from
Sorry about that.
Kentucky, not
One
far
second. Let
from
me get.
Tennessee at all. There's another item that was found over here that's Egyptian. So this is clearly Egyptian just because the images are taken straight from the Book of the Dead.
Right.
Uh, there's no way around this, not being Egyptian. Then you've got this Ushabti.
Where was this found? In Tennessee as well?
No, this was found up in Illinois, not
Okay.
far from where Chicago is today. So all this stuff is not far from the Mississippi or the Ohio River, because that's how they
Right.
were, whoever they were,
And what
in-
they were. Right.
including Phoenicians and Egyptians. Yeah. But this stuff is just undeniably Egyptian, right? So that's why I don't just throw it all out. When
Right.
this guy says Egyptian temple, I'm like, maybe it was.
Yeah, it's
And
definitely for sure. It's for
there,
sure weird.
yeah, there was a group that the Cherokee said they moved in after. And so the Cherokee acknowledged this mysterious group as well. I don't know if they were the Egyptians or not, but there was a mysterious group nonetheless. The Cherokee said they kicked them out. They said they caught them at just the right time. This group, they called them the Anikatani, which became a word for sorcerer in the Cherokee
Right.
language. So the Cherokee saw this group, saw that they were sorcerers, I believe, and then took the name Anakatani and just used it as a word for sorcerers later down through later generations. So there you go again. There's some more of some more of these esoteric sort of occult tie-ins here. But the Cherokee say that they were watching them and a plague hit the Anikatani, and that's when the Cherokee moved in on them and did war with them and were able to drive them out. And then that's when the Cherokee came in and took this whole region of Appalachian Tennessee, where DeSoto would eventually come and enjoy himself. They took that from this Anakatani group. Were the Anakatani partly Egyptian? Were they? I would imagine that they're from the Middle East. That's
Right.
put that on the table as a possibility.
Don't the Cherokee have like a red-haired giant so too in their
They
tail?
do. They do.
That's
And
where things get weird for me.
yeah. Um, that group could have been from the Middle East as well. Honestly, there was some of the Canaanites were said to have blonde hair and blue eyes
Blue eyes, red
and red
hair.
hair.
Well, you put any validity into the Kandahar giant? That's the exact description of him. I don't know how
Oh
much to
yeah, that's
believe that.
Afghanistan. That's the Middle East.
Right.
Hmm.
And
So
what's the people? There's a people over there in I think in Afghanistan. They actually have blue eyes, and some of them have lighter color hair, but they have really blue eyes and they look almost white.
yes, I know who you're talking about. I don't remember the name. I think if I remember correctly,
Punjite people.
they're a group from Pakistan, maybe.
Yeah, they're out of Pakistan, but
Oh, and you also have the Guanches that moved from the Middle East. They were said to be Canaanite originally.
Pashtuns. That's what they're called, Pashtun people.
So it's interesting when you look at these names, think about it like this. An, right? Anasazi,
Anunnaki. That's what I'm thinking of.
Anunnaki, Anukatani, An Anatilla. That's North America is called Anatilla on old maps.
Oh wow.
So there's an AN at the beginning of a lot of these words. And the Navajos out west, they had a legend of these people that they called the Starnaki. It doesn't have the AN, but it sounds just like Anunnaki at
Right.
the end of it. And the Navajos said that they were giants as well, who were miners. They were like mining the earth and they were enslaving people. Very similar to the Anunnaki story.
Right. So do you think that was maybe you think that the Anunnaki stuff's kind of, you know, coming off base from that. They're pulling a lot of that in there as
Mm,
well.
there's
Could be
some
a
ties
possibility.
there. There's some ties there. Uh, but back to this site before they put Norris Dam in, because I've got some stuff I got to throw at you involving like the cover up here. The TVA was coming in, and they had to end up bringing archaeologists in because of these findings. They weren't just finding temples, they were finding like weird burials too. And if you look at the old articles, it says they were finding skeletons unlike any they had ever seen. So what does that mean exactly? I don't know. But they were also finding huge conch shells or conch shells from the ocean,
Right.
big from the Gulf, presumably, in Tennessee. And what they were doing was they were using them as I don't know, they were putting skulls in there. And that was how they would
Sure.
bury, it was their burial practice. So you've got this part in this article where this guy says Isis, Queen of Heaven. That's classic goddess motif.
Right.
So that's another element to this. They may have
Okay.
been connected to an ancient goddess worshiping cult.
Some myth racism in there too, right?
Mhm. Perhaps Mithra or Astarte, maybe. Was this the Phoenicians and the Egyptians? And was this
Right.
Ishtar Astarte?
Well, that kind of
So
goes to the Sumerian angle too, right? That maybe
mhm.
all these came out of Sumeria.
She's yeah, Inanna Ashtar
Was the
comes
Tower of
out of
Babel? Is that in was that Assyria, right?
that was Babylon.
Babylon, right? But
Who
where was that was in
that's in between Iran and Iraq in the
okay.
in right at the like you got the Tigris and Euphrates coming up out of the Gulf, and then that's somewhere in that area of Mesopotamia was where Babylon is. And before the Babylonians, though, you had the Sumerians,
Sumerians, right?
and that's where Ishtar comes from. She's
And the Anunnaki too, right? They come out of
yes,
Sumeria.
she's mentioned right alongside the Anunnaki in the Epic of Gilgamesh
What
as
validity do you put to the Epic of Gilgamesh?
yeah, I mean, it's an ancient record that tells a story of something happening that probably happened. I
All right.
mean, I
What's
think,
the what's the book about the Anunnaki? What's that book called?
are you talking about
Uh,
Sitchin?
yeah,
Zechariah
Zachariah Sitchin.
Sitchin? I don't
Zachariah
know.
Sitchin's work.
I haven't read much of his stuff. I mean,
Okay.
I've browsed it. A lot of that was the guy's interpretation of things. But back to this site, because I think you'll find this interesting. So this is all under Norris Dam. I probably said that, but just in case, just to get people caught up, this was the skeletons, the conch shells, the temple. They found all that right as they're looking at this region because they knew they were about to flood the region, essentially. But instead of stopping that, they went through with it. And so now we have all these legends about the place, and these all these old articles exist confirming that they did find this stuff. And another thing that I was able to find was that there was another guy that they brought in. His name was Harris, I believe. No, that was Professor Harris from Cambridge, and then there was a guy named Webb that they brought in. I'll get to him in a minute, but what I found that was interesting is that this year in June, the Knoxville News, they call themselves the Knox News, ran a hit piece on this, basically just denouncing that any of it ever happened. And
Wow.
they said that Harris was a devotee of the fringe belief that Egyptians inhabited North America before Columbus. So they totally just slammed him, wrote him off. They don't, in this article, they don't mention that Harris was a professor at Cambridge. Instead, they just say he's a Bible scholar.
Right.
Because, that's what they do. This is how they try to slander people, like, and, act like he's a kook, like he's just an old crazy Christian or something like that. Well, I did a show with JT recently, and we opened that show up with an article, not unlike this one, where they're talking about the Giants, and they have to include in the article the crazy Christian person who says it's the Book of Enoch or whatever, which it is.
Right.
The Giants were mentioned in the Book of Enoch, but they try to use this stuff to muddy up the waters and make people look stupid or make people feel stupid.
What do you think
That's
the tie-in is there with Enoch? I mean,
well,
what's your What's your opinion? Do you think it was left out for
let me finish up with this
harmful
article
knowledge?
because I'm trying to stay on this. I'm trying to stay on this one like trail of thought here. Uh, I just want to say that the guy who wrote this article, this is what burns me up, and that's why I think it's worth mentioning. Is like they don't pr they include no proof that this didn't exist. They just try to make it sound like a stupid idea, and that's why they throw the Christians into it. And he's trying to make people feel dumb, and they try to make it look like a fringe Bible thing. So I've seen
Right.
it 100 times. I really want to point that out.
Nothing new, right?
It's biased opinion wrapped up in condescending attitudes. Oh,
Yep.
you're dumb if you believe this. So these people in their institutions, man, I think it's high time that we point this stuff out. But the problem is here is there's a guy here in Nashville who has a book that where the article was published in to begin with. So these were real newspaper articles. They've basically been taken off the internet from what I can tell, but they still exist. You just got to know how to find them. You just got to have the books. And in that book that this guy has, it says the TVA brought in this archaeologist named Webb to oversee everything. So I had to look into him a little bit. The pictures are some of these pictures from Webb's expedition are referenced on the Smithsonian site, but they can't be viewed. That's what we were talking about earlier, the Error 404 thing, you know. So I went in and I looked, and it said like the title of the thing on the Smithsonian site was William S. Webb Photographs of Excavations in Norris Basin 1934. And I tried to view that, of course, and it said site cannot be reached. So,
Right.
and what they don't tell you is that Webb was quoted as saying that the find was one of a kind in all of Eastern North America. So there's a lot of like compelling stuff here. What
Right.
they say in this article is that, oh, it was probably, they're saying, oh, it wasn't a temple, but it was probably near Clinton and Oak Ridge, which, yes, there's another site there. We've talked about it. It's called the Ice House Bottom site. It actually dates back to Göbekli Tepe. But
Oh
that's
wow.
another temple under a different lake. That's under
And
Tellico
that's in Oak
Lake.
Ridge.
It's nearby. So
That's weird.
they won't say any of that in these hit pieces. They won't give you any facts about anything. Because I mean if they were to say, oh, it was probably the Ice House Bottom site, then people are going to go look into the Ice House Bottom site.
Right.
So
Oak Ridge is weird though, right?
oh yeah. Oh
It's
yeah.
super creepy. Did you ever listen to the episode that because you get into like some time slip type stuff, there's a guy that came on the confessionals. Uh it was talking about it was super weird about how he was like a security guard and like working at the facility at Oak Ridge and like missed like 24 hours, like almost a full day. Like he called in sick, but he never called in sick. It was pretty cool. And that was that was a while ago. That's probably 3 years ago. I listened to it.
Hmm.
But Oak Ridge is crazy though because you have the Manhattan Project, right? Going on there in Oak Ridge.
Hmm.
It's where they made the atom bomb. Well, it's where they at least they engineered it in, I think.
Hmm.
Um, so yeah.
Yeah. Clinton, not far from Oak Ridge. That's like one of the little towns up there. You've got that prophet of Oak Ridge, John Hendricks. I've talked about him before, but he lived in the area right at the turn of the century, right around the year 1900. And he was going out into the woods for 30 to 40 days, even by some accounts. And he said that he was receiving messages from God. And what he would do was he would come back in, come out of the woods, go into the town of Clinton, and tell everybody about his visions. And he said that there was going to be a city built there one day, and that there was going to be a lot of people there working in harmony together, working on something that would shake the earth.
Oh wow, that's weird.
So, and then what, 40 years later,
Right.
the government brings in, I think it's like 170,000.
It was this whole city.
It was a whole city. They call it the secret city because they brought in so many people that they had to have an ecosystem there. You know, they had to have like barbers and restaurants and
Right.
groceries, and they lived there too. So they built houses for these
Housing
people.
developments, all kinds of things. Yeah. There's
They
a lot of
built it up.
engineers.
Yeah, they put it there because it was remote, and they knew that they could put a a big population of people there without it being noticed. And that's where they did their part in the Manhattan Project.
All right.
Now it's Oak Ridge, right? But
Oak Ridge.
before it was Oak Ridge, that you have a lot of weird folklore around the area. This guy also said he went up into a UFO, so
Okay.
had some pretty
Take
crazy stuff.
take that with what you will, right?
Hmm. He didn't have the word for UFO back then, so he wasn't calling it that. To be fair, he said it was a ship in the sky that he went up in, where people were telling him about the future and stuff. And I would argue that that's the spirit of Oak Ridge right there in that story, because that type of stuff is happening there to this day.
All right. Yeah,
Yeah,
it's the second largest particle collider on Earth there in Oak Ridge,
mhm. Where they're going back to
behind CERN.
portals. That's where they say that they're opening up these portals.
Right.
That's and yeah, I mean, I heard the same episode that you heard. Tony Merkel, uh,
I
just in a
forgot the guy's name
nutshell.
that came on. Was it a guy that came on, or was it just like a call-in? I can't remember.
Well,
Or
the
was it a story
version
Tony told?
the version I heard was a story that he told that he was at a cookout.
Yeah.
I think he had just moved into the area because he moved down from somewhere up north, and he was at a cookout, and there was a guy there who did security at Oak Ridge, and it was said in passing that he was there to stop things from coming out of portals. I'm
Okay.
paraphrasing here. So that's I want to be careful because this is not my story to tell, but
Right.
yeah, that's the same type of thing that I heard. And then there's a lot of portal lore in that area now. There's a lot of
Right.
cryptids, a lot of stuff, and it's right here. It's right here next to all these sites, man.
It's also not far from that the cave system there in Kentucky, Mammoth Cave System. That's all right in that region too. It's not far from Somerset, Kentucky, where Hellier was located. That's literally like 100 miles, I think. So it's not far. Also found it weird. I was doing some digging on that big flood that came. What was it? Or a tornado? It was a flood. It was a huge flood there in Tennessee, Kentucky, right? Not too long ago. I was running some thoughts on that. Maybe that was connected to the whole Oak Ridge Mammoth Cave system. I don't know.
Mm.
I mean,
Well,
now they don't have to build dams to flood things. They can just geoengineer it, you know?
yeah. Oak Ridge, from what I can tell, pretty sure it's ran on energy from Norris Dam.
Right.
So the very site that this lake sits on is powering out Oak Ridge. I'm pretty sure there's a couple dams in the area, and I think it's Norris Dam that they get their energy from. But they also, man, it's interesting because they also found a shade of purple up there at one of these sites. It was the where the people were burying their skulls in the seashells. They had access to purple, the color purple,
Right.
and that
Which only
was
came from magenta or what was it?
very
Uh,
strange.
yeah, it was flowers out of that came out of
Oh, this comes from sea mollusks, is what they said.
oh, I thought what's the it's a flower they made it out of over there in Europe somewhere. I'm trying to
Hmm.
think of it. It was a big deal. Amsterdam maybe. It was like the flower crash or the violet crash. It was like it was crazy.
I was looking at something the other day, and it's in the Bible where they start talking about these places where people go were going to get gold. There's two places mentioned. One of them is called Uphaz, and it's in Jeremiah. It's Jeremiah 10, verse 9, and it says that the gold from Uphaz was being sort of curated by the goldsmith who wore purple. And normally I wouldn't make that connection with this site, but if we go back to DeSoto, DeSoto was saying when he was staying right below present day Knoxville, he was saying that it's called a place called Chiaha, right? It's right. It's also beneath a man-made lake. But anyway, he was staying in Chiaha, and he said a chief came down to visit him and told him, if you want gold, go north. And this site is directly north of where DeSoto was staying, where the purple was found. So I was like, whoa.
That's weird.
And the conch shells, right? These people having these massive seashells suggest that they were seafaring for sure.
Right. Yeah, that's definitely. Also, do you think there was like any flood aspect of that too? Maybe, from the Great Flood? Did that, I
Mm.
mean, is that a possibility too with the whole seashell thing?
Not those big ones. No, I don't think so.
I mean, where do you even get a big seashell?
In the Gulf, so you would have to be seafaring. You would have to
I
have
mean,
access.
what would be the purpose of them though? You know
They
what I
would
mean?
dive down and get them. I don't know, man. It was something that they used
Do they
for
eat them?
burials. I have
I
no
mean,
idea.
yeah, that's weird. Like seashells, that's kind of like I don't know, it's kind of like a novelty item now, right?
But it's all flooded by the dam that they put there in 1934. That's what I'm more concerned with, and that's what I'm interested
Right.
about. Like temples, strange burials, and I'm still kind of curious about what possessed the professor from Cambridge to say it was a temple to Isis. That sort of piques my curiosity. But that's Norris Lake for you. I mean, some of the stuff I found with it, and of course, it's one of five sites in Tennessee that I'm looking at. So you've also got Chickamauga Lake, Telco Lake, and Douglas Lake. Douglas Lake is where Chiahi is, where DeSoto was staying. That's the paradise that he wrote about. And they submerged that area in 1943 with Douglas Dam. And I got that some crazy accounts of that here in this book.
What's that book called?
Atlantis, Empire of the Gods in North America. Kind of a woo-woo title, but there's actually some real good history in here. He says he found a most agreeable climate, lush, with an abundance of growing things, maize, fruits, nuts, and grazing land. And also says here once existed the most important ancient palace at Etowah, immediately north of Atlanta. That's so there was a palace nearby. How about that?
What's the date of this, do you think?
Eight oh, DeSoto was 1500s.
So when would you say the palace would be around?
It was there whenever they got there in the 1500s. But there's a lot more to it. There was a lot of stuff happening here. In the ancient world in Tennessee was like off the hook for sure. All this stuff. That's why I'm so interested in this, man. This it's like Lord of the Rings, and we have crumbs to go off of. That's why it takes like a massive undertaking to investigate this because it was all just swept up. I mean, what I've got how many dams now? I've got a list here. These are dams that I know have sites at the bottom of them. Roosevelt Lake and Dam, we talked about that. Grand River Dam, East Fork, that's the one up in Cincinnati. Sauk Rapids Dam, Barron River, Lake Ray Hubbard, Lake Powell, Conscious Lake, Lake Mead, Notley
Where's
Dam,
Conscious Lake?
Beaver Dam, and then these Tennessee dams. So, oh, and I've got others too. There's a couple others that I just added to the list. I don't remember where Conscious was. I just have to look in my notes. I can't remember all this stuff off the top of my head. Uh, it's in New Mexico. It was built in 1935 by the Army Corps of Engineers as part of the New Deal. Cove Lake, that's a new one that I have on the list. That's in Tennessee as well. They put in the Caryville Dam in 1936. It was the TVA. And I have an old article where it talks about the skulls and the conch shells, right, being found. And they show a picture of an excavation of a Cherokee building on a site believed to be older and inhabited by older inhabitants.
Oh,
So
so
I messed that quote
that's
up, but
weird.
it's like what we've been talking about, right? It's like the
A
Cherokee
Cherokee
moved in.
has like a house. I wonder like if it was like I wish it had like a brick house. You know what I mean?
No,
Like
they
that would be
did.
cool to know.
They did. They had houses. They built houses.
Right. I mean, what were they built out of though? That's what I'm
They had, I don't, the ones in Yemen that I looked at that are like thousands of years old
right.
are some sort of a concrete that they make out of dirt.
Okay.
They use a certain type of soil and water, and when it
Make a
hardens,
concrete.
yeah, it's almost like a concrete. So, and it's very possible those people in Yemen were said to be the descendants of Ham. So this may have been some knowledge that was pretty well known over in the ancient Middle Eastern world that made its way over here. Because by the time you do get to the 1500s and DeSoto rolls in, they have buildings and palaces.
Right.
I don't know if they were doing exactly what they do in Yemen, but the methods back then existed. When you have boats that's connecting continents and allowing people to cross oceans, this knowledge is able to sort of spread out and
Right.
be used and everything. The real quote there, because I messed that up, I botched it. It says a Cherokee building on a site believed to be built by older inhabitants.
So maybe a different species they're talking about.
And I looked it up on a map, and the region nearby is called Little Egypt. So there you go. Still to this day.
That's cool.
Yeah. Right. This was Cove Lake. Well, that's what it's called today. And right there beside Cove Lake, you've got a town called Little Egypt. So again, you just like, okay, why did they call it that? Right.
Right. Memphis, Egypt,
Hmm.
Cario. Isn't there a Cario, Tennessee too?
What is it?
Isn't there a Cario, Tennessee too?
Oh, yeah. Well, there's Cairo,
Cairo?
Illinois. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah,
That's
super.
it's not terribly far from where that Ushabti little Egyptian figure was found.
Right.
Not far.
That weird looking thing that you showed us
Hmm.
had the snake coming out of its male extremities.
Oh, yeah, it is kind of like that. But I was talking about the little thing I showed earlier on this
Oh.
show that looks like a little pharaoh doll, not doll, but
Oh, okay. Yeah.
figurine.
That
That's
wasn't
the
far from there.
Ushabti. They would put those into. It was like they would put those in people's coffins and burial chambers when they died. The belief was that your Ushabti would come to life in the afterlife and help you do things. Supposed to
Okay.
be like an after death helper, almost like a homunculus,
That's
but
cool.
for the afterlife. Yeah, you've got. I'll just tie it up with this, right? Got a couple other things here, just a couple other dams that I found that I'm adding to that list. Wheeler Dam, Alabama. It's mentioned in the article as well. It's mentioned alongside of Norris Dam. It's also a place where the TVA was finding strange things in the 30s with these other sites. You also have Alum Creek Reservoir in Ohio. JJ knew about this one because I brought it up. He knew exactly what I was talking about. I had a listener send me this, and they're like, "Oh, Alum Creek Reservoir, Ohio." It was a mound site. I looked into it. There was like at least 7 mounds there, and it was flooded in the 70s by the Army Corps of Engineers. And they also said that articles were being found pulled out of the mountains and stuff. You also have W.D. Mayo Lock and Dam. That's in Oklahoma. And I just thought this one was funny because if you look at the dam on the map, right next to the dam on the shore is Spiro Mounds.
What's that?
So mound site called Spiro
Oh,
in
okay.
Oklahoma. So I just thought it's not a coincidence that they put the dam right beside the mounds,
Right.
right? Um, that one was 1966 Army Corps of Engineers. It's one of the most significant mound sites in Oklahoma. So, what are the chances, right? And then you've got Jacktown, Ohio. There was a dam there where they found seven enormously large skeletons at the bottom of a mound. The dam no longer exists because it was removed by the Army Corps of Engineers in 2015. And
Shocker.
yeah, the information on this one is very slim, but it would have been associated with Buckeye Lake. It's right below Newark. You have the Newark Earthworks up there. Very
Okay.
heavy site with the ancient world. You've got the Beaver Dam. This one was interesting. Jim Vieira covered this, I think, for his TV show. I heard him talk about this in a presentation, and I looked at Beaver Dam. It was Army Corps of Engineers, 1944. Vieira went to investigate the site because what they were doing was they were taking these old newspaper articles that talked about giants and other ancient things, and they were going to the location.
Those
And
were all over the place, right? In the 30s.
yes, oh man, yes,
All them old time newspapers had like crazy stories in them.
yes. So they went out to, I think, to sort of like validate or see if they could validate some of these old
Right.
stories. And they found this one about these giants. And it was a location where giants were found by a naturalist. The article says his name was Riggins and that he unearthed 10-foot skeletons, and this is in the Ozarks. So Dave Vieira went to go visit it. When he got there, he found out the site was flooded, but they put on diving gear and they dove down and they actually found the cave where the skeletons were found. And I thought this was interesting. What they also found was an ancient wall that was like 70 feet or so high. So,
What?
yeah, so there's like an ancient wall down there below.
So
So,
there's your walled cities, like a lot of like we were
yes,
talking last time. A lot of cities are walled. Star
yes.
forts too.
Hmm. That's
They.
below Beaver Dam in
That's why I think,
Arkansas.
bro, they have to have like some ancient knowledge of the star fort astrology, as you're saying, of some type of woo-woo type of religion, right? That's what I'm leading to believe. That it's all kind of tied in that way, I think.
Hmm.
I mean, maybe it's the ancient school of Mystery Babylon, right? Or the mysteries of Babylon. I think that's kind of where my brain goes with it.
And well, that would tie in with Ishtar as well.
Right. Ancient, oh, is it ancient, Egyptian mystery school too, right? They were the biggest mystics. The
Yeah.
Egyptians were.
Well, that's the thing. You got Isis is one of the main goddesses that the Egyptians were talking about and worshiping. And I saw something just the other day. It was in an old record that the Templars had recorded, and it seemed like they were using Isis interchangeably with Ishtar. So I'm like, is it the
Almost as
same
the same thing.
goddess? Yeah.
Right. Yeah, it
It,
really does make you wonder, like, with that type of stuff, like, what's the lady's name? It's daggone it. It's going to haunt me. Bo Kennedy talks about her all the time. What's her name?
Lilith.
Lilith. Yeah. That's some creepy stuff for
Well,
sure.
she's mentioned alongside Ishtar in the Epic of Gilgamesh.
Right.
Hmm.
Weird stuff, bro. That's the weird stuff.
And she's
So,
mentioned in Isaiah 34 as well in the Bible.
oh wow, what's the passage?
Uh,
Do you have it?
yeah,
I can look it up.
hold on, I'll go grab it real quick. Okay, yeah, right here. Isaiah 34, verse 14, it says, wild cats shall meet with hyenas, goat demons shall call out to each other. There too Lilith shall repose and find a place to rest. And it says Lilith with a capital L. And this is in the New Revised Standard Version.
Wow. Yeah, that's weird.
Hmm. This passage is kind of, I think it's talking about the destruction of Basra, which is an old Edomite city. And the Edomites were said to be also, they were said to be Amalekites. And Amalekite means blood liquor. And
Oh,
Lilith is associated with vampire lore. She's
okay.
often said to be the first vampire, and she's mentioned in Jewish folklore with associations with vampires and stuff like that. So when you put all that together, you get a pretty interesting picture.
For sure. Necromancy too, right?
Hmm. So she's some sort of a primordial demigod that's mentioned in the Bible and in the Epic of Gilgamesh.
Yeah. It's got to be some validity to it, right?
I think so. Yeah, I think so. There's a couple of these old ancient entities that you see just popping up across many texts. They seem to be.
The weird one's the Green Man, I think. A lot of uh Roman roots there too, right?
Mm,
The Green Man's weird. What's the actual name of the Green Man? It's what?
I knew about the Green Man from Appalachian folklore.
Yeah, yeah, that's
What, Pan, maybe?
that's Pan, yeah, Pan worship. That's pagan.
Hmm.
So I guess a little bit newer, but well, a lot newer than Lilith, but still.
Yeah, just putting the information out there, you know. That's a little update on the dams for you.
You have a lot, bro. That's a lot of information. I'm trying to
Yeah.
digest it all, you know what I mean? But it
Hmm.
seems to me like there's like some type of interconnectivity between flooding of these places for sure. You know what I mean? And
Hmm.
why flood them?
I hope people hear this sort of a podcast in the future, like way in the future. I think that'd
Like
be
20 years from now, 30 years from now?
well, well, 500 years even.
Dude, we'll be old. Well, I
Because
guess if you're Walt Disney, then you're gonna come back to life, right?
yeah, yeah.
You're gonna freeze yourself.
Because this is the time of Smithsonian Gate and Egypt Gate. And I'm just thinking like if it's 500 years from now, what would that be? It's 2025. That would be 2525.
Oh wow, that's cool.
And what if it, think about it like this, like, because I'm just going there, I'm just putting it out there into the ether, like thinking big here. Like, if somebody in the future hears this, this is Smithsonian Gate and Egypt Gate. These are like the psyops that we're dealing with for our time. If you go back through the podcast archives, if you're listening to this 500 years from now, go and check out another show, another podcast called JRE, Joe Rogan Experience, and listen to the episode he does with an Egyptian gentleman named Zahi Hawass and determine for yourself whether or not you think anyone should have ever listened to him regarding history. That's Egypt Gate. And determine whether or not you just think for yourself, and that's the mainstream expects us to believe that version of history. Strange, sort of a fabricated, erroneous history
I
is
think
what they.
500 years from now, I think people are just gonna be able to like Google search in their head somehow.
I seriously wonder what people in the future will think about
Maybe.
that
Or it
narrative.
could be another reset, right? And it could be like sticks and stones, right? Who knows?
I think that people are going to see right through it, see it for what it is.
What's that quote? We're living in the greatest time and the worst time at the same time.
Well,
Or I
break
just
that break that down for me. What is that? What
I
does that
might have just
mean?
I might have just made that up in my
Oh,
head
okay.
actually. What I say, it's the greatest time and the worst time all at the same time. Yeah,
Mm,
I like that
that kind of sounds like something they would say on Joe Rogan Experience, actually.
for sure. No, I do think it. I do think it's an interesting time to be alive. Though I don't. A lot of people are very negative about the times we live in and the circumstances, but I still think it's what you make of it.
Hmm.
I think there's probably worser times in history, if we're being honest.
Yeah.
The Great Famine, a lot of different harder. Um, the Dust Bowl era, right? Early 20s here in America. I think a lot more worse times were ahead. It's actually pretty. I think we've gotten a lot softer, don't you think? I don't think we know what hard times are.
No, no, we don't. Not like they did in the during the Great Depression.
Right, or the Civil War. I mean,
Oh
if you
yeah.
got shot, you were dead, or they're cutting your leg off. Um, I
Oh
mean,
yeah.
yeah.
That was
So,
those were dark, dark times.
right, broken legs led to deaths, and blood
Oh yeah.
clots, different stuff like that. So, yeah,
Yeah. I mean, and I think too, like some of that's been I think too that they had herbal remedies and they knew how to fix each other a little bit better than what we give them credit for.
right,
But what are you going to do when you get shot by a musket too in the 1800s?
yeah,
Your chances of survival are much more slim. I'll give that to the mainstream hospitals.
right.
Like they
Not
do
so
serve
much
a
of a death
purpose whenever
sentence.
you get shot, but
Well, they got to keep. They figure out they got to keep you alive longer, Tim, to sell you more pills.
mm,
You know,
yeah. Well, they're banking on your medical bills being so high that you
right?
you live a life of servitude to them
Yeah,
after that just to pay that off.
you're not wrong, brother.
Yeah,
That's the model, right?
that's the model. Yeah, yeah,
It's a
yeah,
pretty
yeah.
terrible business model.
Yeah, so that's that, man. And
Yeah, this is a good episode.
one that's just I mean, I wanted to focus on Norris Dam because that's where you get the temple from. And by the way, I've seen pictures of all this stuff. There are pictures that were published in the newspaper and were subsequently published in books. And there are pictures of the excavation of what the temple is. And you can see there looks like a little altar there. And there's also areas nearby that have standing stones, like these big stones that were lined up, not like Stonehenge in a circle, but like in a line. All kinds of
Hmm.
crazy stuff to do with this. A lot of those pictures have been what was the term you used before? Like
Scrubbed.
scrubbed, internet scrubbed. I can't find them anywhere now.
Yeah,
So
error
that's
404 messages. This site does not exist.
but not long ago, some of these pictures were online, but I didn't think to save them.
Right. And that's also a thing too, though, Tim. I could have swore I saved a video of it was during January 6th when it was happening. And there was a video of a guy in a black ski mask literally breaking the glass, telling people to jump in. And the guys were calling him out on camera. They're like, "You're a Fed, you're a Fed." That's what the guy kept screaming. I swear. And I thought I had the video saved. Like, I don't know what happened. Maybe I'm full schizo, but something happened to that video because I cannot find it anymore at all. And I've
No, I
been
believe
still
that.
looking for it.
No, I'm sure you saw it and I'm sure it existed. And that's what Ole Demigard told me. He said he had, I don't know, a terabyte of stuff he had saved and he was storing it offline because, and it was all that sort of stuff. It was all videos from these social
Events.
events. Like I was going to
Right.
say socially engineered events, but yeah, these
Yeah,
major
you're not wrong.
societal events. That's what he was talking about. He was like, anytime something big happens like January 6th, he would save the first couple news stories and news footage that they would roll out because he
Right.
said always, they always went back and deleted those.
Yeah, for sure. They
Yeah.
scrub it.
And it's
Uh,
with everything.
and they shut down Internet Archive from time to time too. And I think that's a gradual scrubbing of it as well.
And with this stuff, it's interesting that I noticed it was like scrubbed off the internet. It had to have
Right.
been right around the time that article came out that this guy comes out and starts calling it the whole thing a hoax that the
But
Knoxville
the
News put out.
right. The good thing about that though, Tim, is a lot of this is hard copy though. These are older newspapers,
Hmm.
which are archived. You know what I mean? You would almost have to burn them, physically burn them, but I'm sure there's people who have copies of it.
Yeah, they do. There's several researchers out there who have copies or yeah or pictures of the articles.
And that's all we
Um,
had to go on. There was no video camera back then, right?
right,
You know, it's word of mouth still.
right. But and a lot of people out there will use that argument. I've heard it before where they'll say, "Oh, those a lot of those newspaper articles were embellished or they were altogether hoaxes."
Probably some of them.
But not when you go back and you look like this article, for instance, for this episode, it had that guy W.S. Webb.
Hmm.
I went in and looked him up. Real guy. Is who he says he was. Worked for the TVA, was an archaeologist,
Right.
was at the site.
It checks out.
It checks out.
Yeah. And you know, and to combat that argument, I would say, you know, those people are not wrong either, right? There is probably a lot of embellishment that goes on, but there's also a lot of truth hidden in there too. That's why there's the embellishment effort to disguise the truth, I think.
Hmm.
I think there has to be these outlandish stories to kind of, you know, hinder the truth. And
I've
they've
got
done
a,
that
I've got another
for
one right here,
years.
bro. It's this guy. So this is an old newspaper article, and it was the LA Times. That's what I was looking for. And they talk about an engineer named Schufelt. And I looked him up. He was a real guy, and he was like an inventor too. And even in the article, they talk about him how he was bringing out his homemade like X-ray machines. Guy was kind of brilliant. So he was finding these tunnels under LA. There was a city down there of tunnels. And
Right.
this ties in with what the Hopi talked about as well. Because the Hopi said, well, there was a Hopi medicine man who was saying on record that there were three big cities on the Pacific coast.
San Francisco is one of them, right?
I personally, I think so. I think
Yeah.
San Francisco and Seattle and LA, but for sure LA because that's what the Hopi medicine man said. He said LA. And there's this engineer who took him up on it, decided to go down there and look for these tunnels. And his name was Schufelt. And he found in this article, it talks about how he found an ancient city and catacombs and streets beneath the streets of LA.
Right.
And he was using this weird X-ray machine that he had built to help him. Um, so, and I think that the medicine man was from Phoenix. He was an Arizona Hopi, but he knew the legends of the Pacific coast, which is pretty cool stuff. But there again, you have the whole point for me that bringing it up was this Schufelt guy was a real person
Right.
who really was an engineer. And there's pictures of him. There's pictures of him with this weird device too, his X-ray machine or whatever it was. So you can't just throw out the old articles.
Right. For sure. That's probably the main takeaway.
Hmm.
There's a lot of truth that's hidden, like I said, disguised in disinfo.
Yeah, man.
That's the best way to hide true information, right? Just to just shit scatter the board. Right? It's like you're playing poker, but everybody's throwing their folds down and nobody knows whose cards were whose.
Mm.
You know, at the poker table, it's like everybody just folding their cards and throw them in the middle together.
Yeah. Yeah. It's amazing what's right below the surface when it comes to the truth.
Nice.
Yeah.
So what's been happening with your research as of recently? What is your main interest of topic?
Recently, I've been looking into this ancient history.
Right.
Yeah, that's
I know for a while you were kind of on like this it was kind of like a I don't know, you were doing a lot of like mysticism stuff too for a
mm,
while, right? That's
hmm
what I thought. Yeah, because when I was first listening to your podcast, I think that's what you were discussing on a lot of your earlier episodes.
Yeah, man. I mean,
Isn't it
there's
weird how you like shift perspectives of different interests?
yeah,
It's
but all this stuff sort of ties in with that because, you and I did a show recently with JJ and we got into New York, the
right.
state, right? And the spiritualist movement that comes out of there. And we're looking at, or one of the things I was looking at was like, is the earth itself somehow responsible for um I don't know, all this woo-woo stuff that these people are experiencing. And I don't know, a lot of the guys from today's episode grew up right there where the spiritualist movement popped up.
In New York.
Yeah, Powell's
Right.
dad was a minister involved with that movement. And so was, I think Lewis Henry Morgan was associated somehow. And they were around when the Book of Mormon was, I don't know, I guess it had already been written or found or whatever the story is. But there was a pocket of Mormons there in involved in the nucleus of that spiritualist movement too. So it's funny how that ties in. But yeah, we were looking at, okay, are these mound sites where all this happened? And there were definitely mound sites and lots of really cool ancient sites nearby. So
Yeah.
there is a merger there of the esoteric. And these guys like Powell and Lewis Henry Morgan, because they grew up, because Powell's dad was a minister, because he grew up in that environment, he grew to sort of hate that environment. So it's almost like the roles reversed, and decided he was going to sort of aim his canyons against religion and go against his upbringing.
Right.
And it makes perfect sense when you see the route he took and how deeply he fell into the Darwinist way of thinking.
Yeah, a lot of things to do with that guy too, right?
Mhm.
That's
Oh
a
yeah.
that's a show in itself too.
Yeah, man. Yeah, yeah. But yeah, man, that's I've been looking into this ancient history stuff and that's what I've been looking at. And what about you?
Lately I was kind of just been down like a missing 411 national park rabbit hole again. I really haven't been doing a whole lot of research though as of late. I've kind of taken a break. I like to take my breaks because I drive myself crazy. If you don't, I think it's beneficial to me. I don't want to be I don't want to let it consume me, right? If you stare into the abyss will stare back into you,
Hmm.
right? If you look too long. So I like
Yeah.
to take my break. So I'm kind of getting back in the swing of things. Wanting to get some more episodes out. I just really haven't. I've been so busy, man. Like I said, I'm gonna be gone this whole month pretty much. So I got a lot going on right now. So
Yeah. Well, I appreciate you taking the time to hop
yeah,
on
man.
here,
Always.
man.
I love doing shows with you, and we usually do a pretty good show together. So
Yeah.
I like I
Yeah.
like I like hanging out with you and talking. So
Me too, man.
ancient history is one of my favorite topics to talk about. So
Yeah, me too, man. Me too. And I do. I say it again. I do appreciate you coming on here, and we'll have some episodes for you for sure. We've recorded a couple, so you can
right.
definitely. But
Sorry if I wasn't like fully on tonight, man. I've been wore out, like absolutely wore out for like the past 2 weeks. So
no,
sorry I wasn't like full go tonight. I
you're
felt like
good.
I kind of underwhelmed a little bit, but
No,
um,
that's fine, man. It's fine. But I was a little tired too. But we'll go ahead and wrap it up, man. I know you got a lot going on and a
yeah,
lot to get to, so we'll go ahead and wrap it up. Tell everyone where they can find you.
yeah. I'm just on the Daily Dissident wherever you guys get podcasts. Come in and join us. We have a lot of episodes posted of our work, me and JJ shows we've done together, some of my own. Yeah, so if you're interested in geopolitics, ancient history, I kind of do it all. So it's not really a one-stop shop for breaking news or anything like that. So I like to mix things up. I don't like to get stuck on one topic for too long. I get bored out very quickly. So I like this. While I like doing shows like this. I like jumping into these, ancient mystery school, flooding of, lost timelines, whatever. I like doing this type of stuff. It's
Hmm.
one of my favorite subjects. So yeah,
Yeah, yeah, it's a cool
absolutely
show.
fun show.
Yeah, it was. And I'll just say that your show's a good show. There's a variety of things there, yet it all kind of meshes well. So everybody go check that out. And thanks again, Landon. And as
Absolutely.
always, break the mold, conquer the realm, and thanks for listening.